Okay, so we are going to go through the first 10 stages of the Mass Carnival that I recommend for unlocking Moon Flute, using a fairly minimal loadout of spells that are easy to pick up from the overworld with a few selections from dungeons. And most of these stages really don't call for a lot, because there's a lot of cheese that you can employ. So the first thing with the Carnival is every stage has a display like this, where you can highlight the enemies and it shows you weaknesses and vulnerabilities and things. The most important things are going to be the weaknesses category and the vulnerabilities, but the vulnerabilities is way more important than weaknesses, because weaknesses are only elemental. So if we look at like this stage, this guy has an elemental weakness, and all that means is it takes more damage from that element. It doesn't mean that you can't use the other ones. But why vulnerabilities are so much more important is you have Freeze and Petrify, which are the same resistance. Freeze is more reliable, Petrify can whiff, and you also have Flat Damage Death. Flat Damage Death, all of those spells generally have a percent-based chance to proc, so those are a little bit less reliable than using Petrification and Freeze if you want to cheese a stage. Because, if you notice, each of these enemies is vulnerable to freeze. We can just freeze these guys using Ram's Voice and then use Ultra Vibration and the stage is over. And that's all we have to do. We could also take advantage of Flat Damage Death and use something like level 5 Death. That works too. But if it whiffs on one of the enemies because it will roll on all three of them, then we have to kill it normally. So it's just going to be a lot more efficient to use Freeze as much as we can. So the first stage that I would do is this one, because we just need 2 spells. We need Ram's Voice, and we need Ultra Vibration. They're already in my bar. I'll just get one. And here we are. You just have to get them close enough that all 3 will freeze. It takes no time. They come right to me. And that's stage 1. And one thing that you might notice is the bonus here. There's a lot of little bonuses here. These have to do with different ways to complete the stage. Too Fast, Too Furious is a speed clear, so is Slow and Steady. 10 ways to die means we use fewer than 10 spells. 4 ways means we use fewer than 4. These are all just worth points, so if you want, you can kind of use the Carnival as a way of like getting high scores. I don't think anybody really does that because there's not really like a leaderboard for it to do competitively. But some of these things do occur as part of the weekly challenges, and those are going to be interesting stages that you want to get into if you like having free teleports. Because every week, the Carnival has 3 stages with stars next to them. They require some sort of special clear. Now, the blue stage, the blue star, nothing special, but the gold star requires 3 of those bonuses to be done. But we won't get into that quite yet. Okay, so my guide also recommends after stage 1 to do stage 4. Alright, and let's see here. We have a stage 1 with 3 enemies, lightning, fire, a weakness, but all of them are once again vulnerable to Petrification Freeze, as well as flat damage. And different from stage 1, we have an Act 1 and an Act 2. So after we finish Act 1, we go to Act 2. Our cooldowns do not reset between acts. So if we use Ultra Vibration on this stage, it's still going to be on cooldown when we load into the next one. But notice, this guy is also vulnerable to Petrification Freeze. So we have a bit of a choice here. Do we want to cheese the first stage, or do we want to cheese the second stage? I'm generally going to recommend cheesing the second stage, because this is a big guy. He has more hit points. So it might be a little bit easier just to find another way to kill these things. And what do I recommend? I say, if you want to use Ultra Vibe on Act 2, then just use Petrify on the first 3 in Act 1, and spam your lightning spell. Or you could use Ram's Voice on all 3 in Act 1, that works too. Why do I recommend Petrify? Anyway, we'll just do that. So, oh, I know why I recommend Petrify, because it lasts longer. That's why, because Ram's Voice, look at this. It has a 12-second freeze, so that is about 6 GCDs or so, 5 or 6, whereas Petrify is 20 seconds. So that's more time to spam spells on the bad guys. So I'll take that. And we had lightning and fire vulnerabilities, so let's use our filter option to find those kinds of spells. Let's do a fire. A very easy to acquire fire spell is Bomb Toss, because that is from some gobbies out in middle Lanasha. And then you want to go to the lightning. So lightning, what's a really easy one to obtain? You have to get this with your Blue Mage job quests. I tend to prefer either Reflux if you want single target, or Electrogenesis if you want to hit more than one. Although Glower does hit more things. These are just easier to target, in my opinion. So we'll take, we have 2 enemies that we have to hit with lightning, so we'll take that. So we're going to put this on the bar. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this guy. And we still have those 2. So we're just going to go in. I say there's also more things you can bring. But this is kind of a very minimal loadout. Let's see how this goes. Alright, here they are. Now, these guys can hit pretty hard, and Petrify does not have a 100% chance to proc. Notice this guy didn't get hit. I'm just gonna spam this until one of these guys goes. And you'll see the vulnerability to elements matters here. The wolf is taking quite a bit more damage. But he's getting low. Might hit the mine. Freeze again. And if you get a little spooked, you don't even have to bring a healing spell. You can just drink a health potion. But you don't need to have strong spells to do this stage. Alright, so here's this guy. And we know we can freeze him. So there's plenty of other spells you can bring. If you have them, that's great. Kill the first stage faster. But if you don't need them. The stage I recommend after this is the turtle stage. So let's take a look at what we need for that. We go and look at the turtles. The one thing this doesn't tell you about these turtles is they actually have a buff. But they are vulnerable to Petrification Freeze and Flat Damage Death. So there's a lot of ways of handling the stage. Let's just remove all these. I can't because it's on cooldown. Oh, we're just gonna take these 3 spells in. This will demonstrate different ways of dealing with this. Turtle stage is 5. So since we can freeze them, if we can find a location that will hit all 3 of them with our ice, then we'll be good. But here's the issue. They have a 30-minute vulnerability down, and we only have 30 minutes to be in here. They do not take very much damage at all because of this. You can use Eerie Soundwave to take the vulnerability away if you want. And then you can kill them normally. But if you just want to be quick about it, ice hit all of them. You can do that without having to take the vulnerability. So that's 2 ways to approach the stage. There's other ones. Since you can use Flat Damage Death, you could also go in with some other sillier spells. But we killed them, so we'll just move on. Next up, I recommend number 6. Stage 6. Okay. We have these guys here. This is a Catoblepus. If you remember Holly Heart, there is a second boss where you fight a Catoblepus. And this is a monster that uses a gaze that can petrify you. And what these guys do is actually a function very similar to the mechanic of that boss, where in that dungeon, you have to touch an orb that will give you a blindness status. and the blindness prevents their gaze from hitting you. It's because, like, oh yeah, you can't see it, so it can't hurt you. If only it worked that way all the time. Uh, it's actually a fun interaction. I wish they did it more. But all we have to do is stand in the AoE of these little guys to get blinded, and then we can attack these without having to worry about them. Act 2, let's see. We have, 3 enemies. 2 of them can be petrified. 1 of them cannot be petrified, or... Here we go. Cannot be petrified, and it cannot be flat damaged. So we're going to have to kill that normally in some fashion. And what do I recommend? I recommend in my document is, let's see, to take level 5 death. Okay. Any AoE spell, and then to explode. Okay. Cool, okay. Let's see. What is a fun AoE? Well, the most simple AoE, since we already have it on the bar, we could just spam Ram's voice. That's fine. You can bring something like Plane Cracker. You can bring whatever you want. Why do I recommend level 5 deck? Oh no, let's bring it. Let's have some fun. Let's do something a little bit different from before. And then I also recommend just exploding at the end of the stage. So let's bring Toad Oil, Bristle, and Self-Destruct. So the tooltip on Self-Destruct, it says that it is buffed to a higher potency if you use Toad Oil. And Bristle increases the potency of the next spell cast. And since this is a spell and not an ability, it will get buffed. So let's put these on the bar. And let's see how the solution goes. Seven. No, this is 6, stage 6. Alright, gotta aggro this. Just auto attack it. Stand in this. Auto attack. Fuck. See, if you guys don't freeze, that's fine. Hold still dodge, because line. Took some damage, but overall not bad. I'm gonna cast Toad Oil during the transition because it lasts 3 minutes. So this is going to last for the rest of this time. I'm going to get blinded here real quick, just to make sure nothing bad happens. Alright. There we go. Now let's see if this kills him. There we go. And look, we just exploded. And we won. As long as all the enemies are dead, you win. That's Blue Mage. So, let's see. The next stage I recommend is a chorus slime. Number 7. Okay. So we have a slime here between 2 sprites. And what happens in this stage is the sprites actually have a lot of hit points, but the slime will explode when it dies. And the point of the first act is to show you that when we kill the slime, it destroys the 2 ice. And then we have a second stage where we have a bunch of ice hiding behind some walls, and we have some slimes. And we're like, oh, well, there's exactly as many slimes as there are ice, so we should probably drag them together. And then the last stage, we have some towers, and we have a bunch of slimes. So we should probably see about using the slimes to destroy the towers. And the easiest way to do that is going to be to grab some of them and take them up the middle. Sometimes your positioning can be perfect, and it takes exactly 3 slimes that will hit all three, hit both towers, all three of them well, and sometimes one will be a little bit off, and you'll have to drag another slime. But that's pretty much the fastest way to do it. Now, how do you move things? How do you drag them around? You actually have a few buttons that can drag things around. The easiest one is sticky tongue. So I'm gonna put that on the bar. And let's see, the slimes are vulnerable to wind, so we are going to bring Sonic, bringing this little friend with us. And this is actually the entire kit that we need for this stage. We don't need any other buttons. And it just goes like this. Now, I did say there's other buttons that move monsters around with knockbacks and stuff, draw-ins. For this particular stage, Sticky Tongue is the easy one because it allows for precise positioning. It also doesn't do damage. It only moves the enemy. So when you're wanting to not kill the monster, you want something that doesn't cause damage. And this is one of those buttons. Hydro Pull can move things, but it does deal damage. Snort can move things, but it is a frontal cone, and it can be hard to aim at. Whereas Sticky Tongue, it brings the monster to you. This is actually the skill I used when I was leveling through Mage, because I was doing it by myself in the overworld. And I didn't want to aggro too many things at once, so I would use Sticky Tongue to draw monsters to me one by one, which is very inefficient, but I was a Sprout. What was I going to do? You don't have friends when you're a Sprout. Scoot him over. And we're good. Notice that if you draw the slime all the way to the wall, it will hit the sprite. If you try to position it, it can get stuck next to the cube sometimes, and then sometimes the explosion doesn't hit the sprite. So you want to be making sure you bring the slime to the wall. Okay, so grab one of these. I'll just take them back here. Do an estimate about where it should take them. We're watching this because we want to be line of sighting these by the time that completes. Hey, you got all of them! Let's pop one slime and pop the other. And we win. Oh, that actually got a weekly target though. What was the, oh, advanced spellcasting is required. Advanced spellcasting means that you are using only rank 4 and 5 spells. And so in this case, we only cast Sticky Tongue, which is a rank 4 spell. The stars on the right side of the book. And we were using Sonic Boom, which is a rank 4. What's next? Bombity of Errors, Stage 8. Bombity of Errors. Okay. So this is an interesting stage, because this is set up like bowling pins. You hit this one, and it kills the other ones. This has a similar setup. Set up like bowling pins again. Hit this one, and it hits the other ones. Now, what's actually going to happen is these bombs are ice bombs. They'll freeze this guy, so it gives you a short amount of time to hurt him. But you know, that means he's vulnerable to freeze. The thing about him, though, is he's a little weird. The deep freeze effect applied by the ice bombs is not the same as the one applied by your ram's voice. So, when he's frozen, you can shatter him, but you have to freeze him yourself. So, let's just take our standard good stuff. We don't need this here. We don't need this here. We'll take Sonic Boom, Ram's Voice, and Ultra Vibration. Alright, let's just target the middle. And there they go. Goodbye, slimes. Or bombs. They do slimes. Alright. So he does have a deep freeze. This is not the same as this deep freeze. See, this deep freeze has a blue dot on it. The other one did not. And that's the stage. Next stage I recommend is stage 11. These guys. They're vulnerable to wind, and then there's 4 of them here. What I recommend here, the way that this stage works is as soon as one of these guys is aggroed, they start doing a cast. And if the cast goes off, you die. You can't diamond back it. It's damage that goes through invuln. So you have to hit them, and every time you hit them, it resets their cast bar. And since there's like a group of them, it's going to be a little bit easier to bring them all together. And there's a couple of ways to do that. And they're vulnerable to wind, so this is what we're thinking. But you might also notice stages. They are not vulnerable to any status effects, so we can't just pull them together and cheese them with a freeze or something. So I know that's how they work. Then I want to say, what are my wind spells? Oh, there's not very many. This doesn't deal damage. This is single target. This will hit more than one thing, so we'll take that. And you might not have this yet, and that's okay. And then we have some drawn effects. Hydro Pull's really good. You can use that if you have it. But if you don't have it, you can use the old reliable Frog Tongue. Who cares, right? Let's use Sticky Tongue. Right. Okay, that's something. So what's the stage? This one? Okay, so if you have Hydro Pull, you can use it if you want these guys in. And now, so this is a line AoE. Just blow them in the same direction. Every time we hit them, their cast bar resets. Ideally, we alternate which one we're targeting so that the drop-off damage is alternated between them. But it's still fine, they still get fast. Now, if you don't have Hydro Pull, it doesn't matter. You can use Frog Tongue. Bring him in. Alright, so now we have them grouped. I want to make sure those cast bars don't go off. It's just, you know, making sure they all die in a timely manner. Easy enough. Stage 13. What's that look like? Okay, we have 3 monsters here. One thing about this act is these 2 gargoyles begin the stage petrified. And it is a petrify that you can use Ultra Vibration on. But this guy doesn't. This boss, not immune, is immune to Petrify, so it's not vulnerable to it. We can't use flat damage. Slow and blind aren't really the most useful things. But the thing about her is she has a very low hit point pool. Which makes her a really good target for Final Sting. So, we can cheese this stage. We can bring Ram 5. I know we got that on the hard punch still. And what is my recommendation? Sonic Boom, standard good button. Whistle, Tingle, Trident. This is the first time we're actually yoinking this out. So this is a combo. Whistle, Tingle, Triple Trident. And what this does, this will buff your next physical attack by 80%. Triple Trident hits, well, actually, let's do it this way. Tingle is a very low potency AoE. It does 100 lightning damage, but it increases the potency of your next physical spell by 100, but Triple Trident hits 3 times. So that means Triple Trident is going to be doing an increased potency of, instead of 150, 3 times, it's 253 times, and you can buff that with Whistle, because Whistle buffs physical damage, it's not buffing Tingle, so if you do Whistle, Tingle, Triple Trident, Whistle will not be consumed by the use of Tingle. So we're going to grab Final Sting, put that on the bar somewhere. Oh, it's already on the bar. Okay, just need to remember where it is. And do I have anything else? Nope. And the recommendation here is to go into Act 1 and just kill them. It's stage 13, let's say. There we go. Now, I say the boss's hit points, so that she should be stingable from 58%, and that is a little bit gear dependent. You'll notice that this is a level 50 sync, and if you have higher level gear, it will be synced down. If it is 125 eye levels over a standard level 50 duty, you'll get full credit for your substats. So if you're wearing level like 70 or 80 gear, it's going to be completely synced down. You'll have this like big bonus on any pieces from your substats. But if you can optimize toward critical hit, then my estimates in the guide for a final sting threshold will be better. If you don't have that, there are some consumables you can use. You can just use old tinctures, like grade 3 tinctures are really helpful because they're really easy to make. They should also be fairly cheap on the market board. But I'm a big advocate of consumables because they're very useful in Deep Dungeon a lot of the time. Health potions, tinctures, things like that. You'll find uses for these things. And for Blue Mage, once you get Moon Flute, you can even use a health potion in Waning. Can't do anything else, but you can use a health potion. Alright, so what we gotta do? We want to open by softening her up with Whistle, Tingle, Triple Trident. This is doing a lot of damage to her. Like, that dropped her really low, really fast. And I'm saying, I'm looking at least 58%. If you're a little unsure if that works, we can turn around, buff ourselves. And let's give her a buff Final Sting, see if that takes her out. Oh, there it goes. And that was a crit. So if you find that your Final Sting doesn't do quite enough damage, you can just drop her lower, or you could bring a consumable. And that's that stage. She's very squishy. Stage 14. Let's take a peek. Stage 14. Couple of slimes. Couple of more slimes. Now what this doesn't show you is that when you hurt these slimes, when they drop to 0 hit points, they will do a long cast and explode. The slimes on this stage will apply a heavy to you. So the way around that, we don't really need all this business. Oh, stop. If you ever get tired of waiting for a Blue Mage cooldown to go away before adjusting your hotbar, you can always use Duty Finder to unsync into a duty and pop right back out again. Like, just unsync into Sastasha and pop out, and it will reset your cooldowns. Okay, so the way that Blue Mage has around having a heavy that you cannot Asuna is loot. It's in the woods. So we line of sight the cast as they go up. And I use Loom to do the teleport. There are settings so that you can make sure the targeting ring for this doesn't go beyond which you can target. By default, the setting does allow you to move the cursor to the point where the targeting reticle turns purple and you cannot actually go there. So you might want to go into settings and adjust that. But here's what we do. For this one, there is a 30-second heavy that we cannot remove. So I'm going to loom right over here. And I'm going to loom over here. So they reapply the heavy when we use it. And we just teleport around. Line of sighting the explosion by using the structure in the center. And that's it. And this is going to be our last stage that we need to unlock